Welcome to HortTube, where we talk all things gardening. My name is Jim Putnam, and this is a Green Giant Arborvitae. This is Green Giant Arborvitae, a western arborvitae that has been introduced now in the eastern United States as a screening plant. It's a very fast growing plant. It's become very popular very quickly. It is a conifer, which is like a needled plant instead of a leafy evergreen. It's become very popular very quickly because of how fast it grows, and Leyland Cypress, the plant that it's replacing, now has quite a few insect and disease problems. Green Giant Arborvitae is likely going to get 50 feet tall or taller in the future. I see a lot of websites that list this plant getting 25 feet tall. I can tell by how this thing grows in the nursery. It's very, very similar to Leyland Cypress, and the early books on Leyland Cypress said they get 15 feet tall, and now we see them 75 feet tall. The ones that survive the wind that get that tall, I can't imagine that this plant's not going to do exactly the same thing. Green Giant Arborvitae is an extremely cold hardy conifer. This plant can grow in zones 4 to 8. In zone 8, I probably wouldn't use a conifer as a screening plant. There are a lot of choices that are leafy evergreens that I think hold up much better in the summer heat. But if you're in zones 4 through 7, this is a great choice for you. In the winter time, and especially in the colder areas, the whole plant turns kind of a bronze color. It's this really nice green color in the summertime, and then a kind of a bronzy look to it in the wintertime. In terms of rate of growth of Green Giant Arborvitae, everybody's going to tell you these grow 3 or 4 or 5 feet in a season. That's not actually the way conifers work. The first year you plant this plant, you'll be lucky to get 6 or 8 inches of growth out of it. Maybe the second year you might get a foot and a half out of it, and then it'll start to pick up pace. And I think maybe by the 4th or 5th year you'll be adding 3 to 5 feet a year on it. But I wouldn't expect it to just take off like that. If you're seeing slow growth early on, it's completely and totally normal. This plant's definitely going to want to be in more sun than shade. I don't think it would do well at all in deep shade. But anywhere, maybe if you get 2 hours of direct midday sun all the way to full sun would be fine. And really out in open space in the full sun is probably where they're going to perform best and be the fullest. If you put them in a lot of shade, they might grow fast but end up very thin at the bottom. This is really just going to be a border plant. I wouldn't put it anywhere near my foundation. It's going to end up above your roof line and could possibly do damage to your foundation with the root system in the future. It would not be an appropriate plant on a very small lot. This thing's probably going to end up 15 feet wide at the base in the future. So depending on how long you plan on being in your house, you need to be on a large lot to use this plant. But that would be the appropriate use for it. It's a border plant between you and a neighbor. The winter color on Green Giant Arborvitae is a really nice bronze color, especially in the colder climates. If you're in zones 4, 5, and 6, it's probably going to be almost totally bronze. In zones 7 and 8, it's probably going to keep about half of its green color and be half bronze, half green. In terms of planting Green Giant Arborvitae, we're going to want to elevate these a little bit when we plant them. I'll dig the hole, this root ball here, maybe 10 to 12 inches deep. So I'm going to dig the hole that depth and a little wider than the width of the root ball. I'm going to use that soil that came out of the hole and mix it. If I have clay, I'm going to mix it with a pine bark soil conditioner. It's what we're growing these in. That will create some drainage in the clay to allow the water to pass through a little more easily. If you have sandier soils, you're going to want to mix in some compost or some peat moss or some cow manure, 50-50 with whatever comes out of the hole. Take some of that 50-50 mix and put it back at the bottom of the hole that you dug, so that when you pull this plant out of the pot, set it in the ground, it's actually sitting up a couple inches above the original soil grade. Then pull your soil up to the edge of it, pack it in really well, and then lightly mulch this plant. You can mulch it heavy out away from the plant, but don't cover anything that's not covered when you purchase it. I see these constantly buried in 3 or 4 inches of mulch, and that's definitely not good for this plant. It's going to keep it too wet, and it also invites pests. You may find when you pull your Green Giant Arborvitae out of the container, let me see if I can get this one out, that the roots are circling around. This one's not bad yet. It hasn't been in this pot very long. But if you find that they're circled around the pot like this, root bound we call it, Go in and pull at those some and get them where they're heading outward instead of continuing to circle around. If it's really, really bad, you may actually have to cut it with a shovel or a knife. Just make a top to bottom cut, maybe a 1/2 inch deep, maybe 3 times around, and that'll make sure the roots start going outward instead of continuing to wrap around one another. Watering is an important issue when it comes to Green Giant Arborvitae or any conifer that we're using as a screening plant. These will not let you know when they're dry. They'll just start to thin out in the bottom. You'll see needles in the middle will turn brown and start to thin out. So monitoring the soil moisture on these is important even after they're established. If it becomes abnormally dry, I would definitely drag a water hose to these and then drown the space around them. Don't do any of that little bit of watering at the time thing. Make sure you're allowing them to dry out a little bit between rains and waterings so that the thing actually tries to seek out some water and roots out a little better. If you continually water the center of this plant every day over and over and over again, the plant has no real reason to go searching for water. In terms of fertilizing your Green Giant Arborvitaes, I would definitely use a slow release fertilizer in the spring. Any kind of azalea, camellia, rhododendron fertilizer or hollytone would work as well. This is an acid loving plant. Both of those types of fertilizers are for acid loving plants, so either one of those would be perfect. In the nursery, we'll do a little shearing on the side of these just to make sure that they're full in the future. You never want to take this leader off of this plant. If you take the leader, if I cut this center leader off, I'm going to end up getting 2 or 3 new leaders, and we don't want that. We really don't want these to be multi-trunked, because if we get snow or ice on a multi-trunked Green Giant or Leyland Cypress, the snow or ice could potentially just take it and split it, you know, right in 2. So we'd like to have one single central leader, and we'll, like I say, we'll do a little shearing on the outside of it to make sure it's going to be full. Eventually it's going to reach some sort of height you're not going to be able to prune on it. So any of that needs to be done while they're smaller. Really doesn't need a whole lot. If they're spaced properly, I think it's going to be very full. In terms of insect and disease problems, we're really not seeing any kind of root related disease problems in these yet. I fear as they get overplanted in the future, we probably will. But we do see bagworms on these can be an issue. I really only ever see bagworms on really stressed plants. The other day I saw a Leyland Cypress that was in a drive-through between the ordering screen and the building, and it was absolutely full of bagworms. And obviously it was just because it was in a very stressed position. It wasn't even getting enough sun. It had a lot of foot traffic on it probably. And so I feel like most of the time that's the issue if you bury these too deep in mulch, if you under or over water them. That's when you tend to invite those types of pests in. A very healthy, vigorous growing plant that's well fertilized and watered when it needs water, not overwatered, tends to resist those types of issues. Okay guys, I feel the need to future-proof this video. This is 2016 when I'm shooting this Green Giant Arborvitae video, and I feel the need to future-proof it because almost all newer varieties of screening plants, this is the way it will work. So I'm going to fast forward. It's 2020, and Green Giant Arborvitae has actually become the most popular screening plant in all the eastern United States of America. It's now 2024, and almost every yard is lined with Green Giant Arborvitae. 2028, and some disease seems to be decimating Green Giant Arborvitae. Now 2032, and I'm showing you a Green Giant Arborvitae, a plant that used to be used as a screening plant all across America. Seriously though, this is a great screening plant, but if a lot of your neighbors are putting in the same type of plant as a screening plant, I would pick something else if I were you. We've seen this repeatedly. We've had several plants come and go where they got overplanted, and then that just invites some sort of disease or insect. I understand that everybody wants the latest and the greatest and the nicest thing that's currently being sold, but if we outline every yard with this plant, eventually some pest will come along and eliminate this plant. That's just how it works. We saw it with red tip Photinia. We've now seen it with Leylands, and I fear that sometime in the future this plant will probably go the same way. So if you see these all through your neighborhood, pick a different plant and you'd be doing everyone else in the neighborhood a favor. So what are you waiting for? Even you can grow a Green Giant Arborvitae. Thank you for watching, and if this video was helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for future videos. Also, comment down below with any questions you might have about Green Giant Arborvitae or other screening plants.